Hey, what's up everybody? So welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about, black people and finances. So obviously with all the things that are happening right now, with the racial tension, the discrimination, the protests, everything that's happening, before I could let any of my regularly scheduled other videos fly online, I had to take this time to really talk about this because this is pretty much the foundation of the reason why I even have this YouTube channel. So here's the thing. I started talking about finances and trying to help others learn about finances, about investing, taking care of their money, always keeping themselves in a position of not being broke or not having anything whatsoever, no matter how much they make, because of how hard it was for me growing up and how hard it was for our family and money. Because see, my history is that, I grew up in the hood, so I struggled a little bit, right? Especially when it came to just trying to make sure that I did things the right way and starting to learn about, just how to be on my own and things like that. And I had so much frustration, an enormous amount of frustration, because I could not figure out how could I get ahead and get my family ahead. The only answers that I had when I was growing up about like how could I possibly put my family in a different place, the only things that I could ever think of was one, hustling on the streets, two, playing sports. That was it. And so yeah, I did both. I mean, I would cut people's yards, rake leaves, everything, whatever you want to think of. I was out there. I was doing whatever I needed to do just to support and bring some type of income into, my home. So I was raised in a single family household. Now, in the same instance, I did have like people like my grandparents that were there and other family members around. But it was kind of like one of those, I guess you could say, typical stories, of growing up in the hood. But as I was becoming an adult, my frustrations grew as I faced so many different financial obstacles and doing, the right thing, getting a good job and things like that. And going through so many ups and downs with that, to even being, discriminated when it concerns even getting different positions, at places that I work. And so my frustration pushed me to learn more about finances, learn more about how people are becoming wealthy, how people get out of struggle, how to fix your credit, how to invest. And I'm telling you, like, I obsessed over it. Like, I'm talking about I obsessed over, because my thing was, how do black people ever get a fair shake in this world? How do you do it? How when your foundation is like dirt level? Like, how do you come up? How can you succeed, and what can you do? And it pushed me to start to do a lot of research and to dig deep into just the relationship with blacks and money in this country, in America, and just my own personal experiences, like why, like how did we get here, and how are these things the way that it is? And a lot of people don't believe in systematic racism, but it's very real. Like it's very real. It's embedded within the system. It's embedded within the laws. Like, so it's very real. And so one of the things you gotta understand is that if you go all the way back to like slavery, for example, keep this in mind, just to kind of paint you a picture, to show you kind of how things, have been going. So just think about it like this. You're in slavery and you don't get paid, and you are working and you are producing crops, whatever, because it's kind of like whatever plantation it was, they had their own, products or whatever that they produce. So not every plantation necessarily produced the same stuff all the time. So let's say you have your plantation, for example, and you have people that are working for you for free, and all you're doing is making money. And year after year after year, generation after generation after generation, you're constantly stacking the chips for you and your family, and for those that are working around you that you care about. Meanwhile, you have a workforce, slaves, that are in your fields. They are picking whatever, your crops, they're planting, they're doing all these things, and you're not even paying them. Oh, but you're providing them a shelter. So as time progresses, what do you think happens? You see one race, white people, you see that race start to rise as far as income, and as far as money, as far as wealth. Meanwhile, the black race is still down here. because they're not getting paid. So all the way to the point to when slavery now ends, and then you get to where now there's segregation and slavery has been abolished, and so hey, you're free to go. And they're free to go with what? Most don't even have any type of financial knowledge. They don't have any money. And they also had these laws in place that if you were found being homeless, that you get put back into slavery. It's just real stupid, or get locked up. It's real crazy. Now, through that process, we had this whole policing thing to come about. And it wasn't necessarily to police everybody, but it was to police black people. Now, here's the thing. In segregation, black people start to find their way. Now, one of the most notable examples, which, was just like the anniversary of, everything that happened, was Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street is probably one of the most notable stories of what happened when, black people got together, they started to work together, and they started to say, you know what? We're going to make this work. And they start to build. They start to build their own things, build their own inventions, have great, things going on in their own economy. Meanwhile, outside of that, the economy wasn't always the best. But for black people, we had stuck together. We were educating ourselves. We were growing. We had our own community. The support level was through the roof. So now, when you see stuff like that, so imagine what happens. People start to get jealous. So like we're talking about the example for Black Wall Street, that whole situation of the massacre that happened was behind nothing but jealousy. It started off with a lie, and that lie, they used that as fuel to just burn down black businesses and everything, to murdering black people, just a complete massacre. And then the worst part about it was that not only was it just the killings, but then even for people to rebuild, the insurance companies would not even take care of, or cover anything, because guess what? It was blamed on black people, as to say black people were rioting. And so insurance companies, they weren't covering anything like that. So it took 5 years for them to even rebuild Black Wall Street. But once that started to happen, then desegregation started to happen. So what I'm doing is I'm painting a picture for you, just on a racial way, from what I bring to the table, which is, finances. I have a business that, I help people grow their business or market and things like that. But one of the things that I also contribute is I try to help people learn about finances, investing, things like that. Like I talk about money and talk about strategies a lot. So I'm contributing my part. And so what I'm showing you is how it makes sense to today and everything happening all the way up to George Floyd and the countless numbers of people that have been murdered on the streets. So now back to desegregation. So when desegregation happened, now our strength and numbers and support was completely diluted. Because remember, we were segregated. We couldn't go to the nice white restaurants, and we couldn't eat on the nice white side of the restaurant, or we had to use another bathroom, or couldn't use the certain water fountain. Now they're kind of like, hey, maybe you can kind of come in our economy, shop in our stores, spend some money. And when that happened, it really broke the structure that was happening across America, not just in Black Wall Street. It was happening everywhere, to where now our support was now, and the money that we had that we would be putting into each other, it was now, leaving, because everybody was so infatuated, like, oh, I get to go buy, clothes in the white stores now. They're accepting me in. Our kids get to go to their schools now. We're accepted. Now understand, everything that happened from slavery all the way through this time, it was very psychological. It wasn't just random. It was psychological studies. They pulled in tactics from other nations, and for so many different tactics on how to break people, how to control people, how to manipulate people, how to make people, hate themselves and not feel strong, how to break a household, how to break a tribe by taking the head and abusing, raping, castrating, killing the head, so that the crowd, the tribe that's with them, the family unit, they now feel weakened, right? And you can hear me saying that, and you can hear and see how we still have traces of that in our home today. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, during that time, they also had something called the Freedmen's Bank, right? So we always hear about the whole 40 acres and a mule. So we hear about that, right? we hear about the 40 acres and a mule thing. And yes, that was something that started to happen where blacks were given land and blacks were given a mule, because remember, finances were different. Currency was kind of different as far as the way you generated. So 40 acres and a mule, meaning you were able to do what? Farm. You were able to produce crops, because that was one of the growing things back then. But now that was cut short. And then also, there was so many different things. Man, that's like a whole nother conversation of how those that had land, how it was taken away from them, how it was stolen away from them. That's like a whole nother conversation. But that 40 acres and a mule thing ended, and most of you probably don't understand or even know why it ended. Now, what happened with the whole 40 acres and a mule thing was that President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. When he was assassinated, Andrew Johnson came in behind him. And guess what Andrew Johnson did? He cut that. He reversed it. No, we're not doing the 40 acres and a mule. And then they did this whole thing about, we're gonna open up a bank, for black people. It's called Freedmen's Bank. And so what happened was, you got black people now saying, oh, okay, cool. And they would take their money and they would put it into the bank. And then what happened was, the banks made it hard for black people to get loans, to get the same type of, opportunity far as with money and loans and credit and things like that, they weren't given the same to white people. White people had, hey, here you go. You can have it, take all the money you need for your business. Black people, it was a struggle. So then with it being a struggle now for black people to be able to even obtain their own money, or to just be able to get a loan so they could do things like build businesses. See, now they're being controlled. Now the whole system is being controlled, because now we control the money, we control their money. So then what happened is that bank ended up going down, because basically the money that black people were using or putting within that bank, the bankers, all those white people, they ended up squandering that money away in just stupid investments. So then what happens to all these people who was putting their money into the bank? What happens to them? They don't care. They don't care at all. And so what it does is, you have people starting to progress, and then they're right back down. Meanwhile, those bankers, they didn't even bank at that particular bank and stuff like that. They had their own money and their own banks and stuff like that. So what happens now is, you still are seeing the rise of one race and another race trying to get, and then they get knocked back down. Now, what you may not realize is that in this time right now, a lot of that still happens, where blacks don't get the same respect as other races like white people. We're not as quickly to get the business loan or to get the business credit like someone like that's white. It's just not. To the point, banks, they have it in their clauses, if you don't know, to where they have to lend out a certain amount of money to minorities. I really feel like that should be changed, so they have to give out a certain amount of money to black people, because now minorities aren't just black, and it's not just race. It can be preferences that make you a minority. And you can be a single and a white woman, and they consider you a minority. So that kind of also still makes it harder for black people to, be able to just get access to the funds like everybody else has. So imagine now you grow up in a family where your family has been winning all their, like generation after generation, they winning. They've been doing pretty good. So your foundation of where you start out in life is a whole lot higher than the foundation of a black person, because the history in our families are they struggle. They've been struggling. For majority of the black families, you do have some that were able to break free. But then even with that, a lot of them that had inventions and that had these great things and land and stuff like that, it was stolen from them. Or something happened to where, the company goes under. Nobody wants to work with them no more. All these different, it's like a whole another world of just things that happen to where it took from black people over and over and over again. So when you have things like that happens through a family and that happens to black people over and over and over and over again, it starts to add trauma into the generations, because now you have a family that the only way they know how to communicate is based off of their past experiences, what happened to their parents, and the fear of, well, I don't know about that, I don't know nothing about that, so you might not want to invest I heard like the financial literacy part in most black families, it's just not there. And so you see now where you see black people still struggling to the point that white households are 10 times more wealthier than any black household. Like there was one study that showed that the median household average for a black person was $17,000, like their net worth. And then you go and look at the white people, it was $170,000, 10 times more. And so you look in today's society where we have access to so many different things, we can invest, we can get into real estate and things like that. It's still kind of challenging. Even looking at what happens when someone tries to go and get a good job, but they're not going to get the good job because, their skin's a little dark, right? Or their name is Shaquan, or their name is, whatever it is, that's just like a black name versus someone has a white name and they don't even take the black name because they're like, we don't want a Derek in our office. It's okay. We'll go get John. And so then what happens is now Derek, who's a black man, who's a husband, he can't even go home and provide for his family like he needs to, and then his wife is upset, and it creates all this tension. I hope you're seeing how it just creates this endless lane of just trauma and issues that just constantly come through the black family, the black household, through the black person, the black man, the black woman. It's a constant stream that's propagated because of this systemic racism that people say doesn't exist. Now, I know what it's like to not be able to come up in a job because of racism. I know for a fact. So how does that relate to me even starting this channel? And how does that relate to what we're seeing on the news? Because black people have always had this type of persona, like we're something to be feared, so we don't want them coming up. I mean, George Floyd was killed over $20, whether it was a counterfeit $20 bill or not. It doesn't matter. It was over $20. Are you for real? $20? Like, that's what he lost his life because of a phone call to police behind $20. See, because the lack of money in the black community and in the black household causes people to take from each other, causes people to hate each other. You can't even, you trying to succeed and there's this whole crabs in a barrel mentality. And yes, part of it is part of the black community. We have to be able to take that and we have to switch it, we have to change it, we have to learn how to love and work together better. Our conditions push that. Remember, these things were on purpose. It was psychological. We weren't oppressed by accident. We were oppressed on purpose. So then we get to the point where I'm so frustrated of why is it that I can't get ahead? Why is it that they won't give me the promotion and I'm doing 3 times the work, but then I teach one person to do what it is that I do, or just a part of what I do, a fraction of what I do, and then they get a raise and they're making twice as much than what I did, and I'm doing what they were doing 3 times. Like, why? So my frustration led me to obsess over how to learn about finance, how to invest and stuff like that. So I've been investing for like the last 14 plus years, 14, 15 years. And I learned from, like I said, my frustration, going to the library. Nobody would teach me. I used to watch my mom say, I want to do better things with my money. I want to invest my money. So she would go sit down with people at the banks, at the investment, those investment finance firms and stuff like that. And then what would happen? They would tell her, oh, you need to come to the table with $10,000. My mom ain't got 10. She ain't had no $10,000 then to just give to you. So then what happens? That knocks a person down. They don't look for other ways. It hurts a person's feelings to say, oh, well, in order for you to come to the table, you got to have this amount, which was a complete lie. And then I watched my grandparents actually start to invest, and they started to invest in our electric company here, Dominion. And I remember how the process went. Dominion used to send this perspective, like this investors relations thing through the mail in their bills all the time and say, hey, if you want to invest, just add an extra $20 or $40 on top of your bill. We'll hold it. We'll invest it. My grandparents did it. Watched their money triple like within 6 months or whatever, and got scared. Oh my gosh, we gotta pull our money out because it's going up, and it's all them scams and all that stuff, because we're so financially illiterate to the point we think that when something's going good financially, till we start to fear it. Like, wait, hold up. And so this stuff has driven me to really, really hone in on finances. mainly because, I just didn't want to struggle. And I wanted to help my family, and then I wanted to be able to help somebody else. Now the channel, age of this channel is a lot longer than what it was. Now I started a while ago. I don't know if you can get videos that had on it. Like, I've been on YouTube for a pretty long time. I've had other channels that have done really well or whatever. But literally, like, behind me wanting to just help more people. Before I had this channel, I would talk to people one-on-one, show them what I learned, show them how I've been able to do this. We sit down just to try to help educate. And I used to do like some free financial workshops and things like that here in my city to help people learn, things like that. I have some other groups that I don't really talk about. Like, one of them I kind of leave in the comments, which is like a Black Wealth Movement group in Facebook. Just trying to help educate people, learn, think a little differently. Nothing sexy, nothing crazy. Just think a little differently. Just, how to invest, how to take care of money, what to look out for, things like that or whatever. But it drove me to really, really want to help more people to not go through what I went through, because the reality is, whether you make $1 million or not, you still can live very well. And so I try to break down on this channel like very basic, very simple, simplistic ways of how you can, grow your money or whatever, invest and things like that, without all of the big words that people don't understand, kind of masking around the subject. So I try to give it in a way that makes sense. And so because of poverty, there's been so many issues within our community to where we can't even see someone succeed before, we want to take from them. And when I say we, I'm just talking about Black people, not all, but we understand what I'm talking about. And so for me, seeing everything that's happening and just how frustrating it's been, like, as a Black man all my life, and how you've been judged and how you get judged and how people treat you, how people look at you. Like, it's almost like it doesn't matter how much you succeed. People want to remind you that you're Black like it's a bad thing. So for me, seeing everything that's happening now, and that's always been happening, and especially now where it seems like it's getting recognition worldwide. So for once in our entire globe, everyone is starting to pay attention to the fact that you're not doing right to a race. And yet, there's even more issues we can tackle with that. But everybody's noted. As of today, all 50 states have had some type of protest. Our city, we've had protests. It's been peaceful, and then you have the part where people are doing the looting, whatever the case is, stuff like that. By the way, most of the people that's starting the looting, they're not even Black or even from the area. But it's beautiful to even see the protests and things that's happening within my own city. Like, I was able to go down one time, but I look forward to being able to get down there even more times, because, it's a great cause, because I'm a Black man and I understand exactly what it feels like to be profiled, to be judged, to all that stuff. I know what it's like. I definitely know what it's like. And to the point that you almost expect it, and you kind of like don't pay attention or whatever. But a lot of us always having that in the back of our mind, these things, and just even going for a run. I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I like to get out and walk and run. And every single time I do, because, people don't really pay attention to you that much, but when they do pay attention to you, then it's kind of like how they pay attention to you. Like, who is that? And me and my wife been living in this neighborhood for 12, 13 years. And so even still, going for runs and things like that, it's almost like, hopefully people, see that I got a armband on and stuff. Those thoughts, those are real thoughts. And so it's just prompted me really to just make a video just talking about like one of the core foundations of why I even talk about finances. It's because of stuff like this. And so that's it. I just had to put something out there because, I really just didn't feel like dropping any other videos, any stimulus updates, talking about stocks or anything. Like, after this, I can put some videos out, but just the basis of why I started this channel. So, hey, listen, guys, whatever part you play, whatever part you can play, whether it's educating yourself, whatever it is, do that, right? If you don't mind talk out against what you know that isn't right. Don't allow people around you to think they can say different things around you that's not right. We need your help. We need you to fight with us, to continue to fight with us. So that way we can end and we can change the perception of Black people. So the narrative can change, right? So we can all work together as a human race, and we can see the color and still respect it and understand that the color that we see, it's beautiful. So, hey guys, we appreciate you if you're standing with us. We appreciate you for, marching with us, protesting with us. I appreciate all the texts and messages and emails that I've personally gotten and the conversations I've had with people trying to understand, so many different conversations. And, I loved it because for once, it's a global conversation. Now, the funny thing is, whatever happened to that virus that was going around? I guess we'll see what happens in a month. But you guys be blessed and talk to you soon. Peace.